Hello, so today's project is actually one that I completed multiple months ago, but with how busy the holidays got and everything that's been going on recently, I didn't really get a chance to finish this video, so I'm gonna do that today. For the closing weekend of the Maryland RenFaire, my friend Kit asked if I wanted to dress up with her and a group of her friends to be kind of like Italian Renaissance inspired tapestry animals, so like animals that you would find in like medieval tapestries. Original inspiration for these outfits is the horn and ear maker Idolatry. She makes resin demon goat horns and unicorn horns and ears and stuff. So when Kit was talking about this costume, she mentioned that the group had based their outfits on these specific sets of horns, and then from there kind of went with Italian Renaissance tapestry inspired animals. So that was my prompt, and I've been wanting to make an Italian Renaissance costume for a while now, so I was very excited to get started. Kit made her outfit entirely out of fabrics that she got from the thrift store, so I set that as my challenge. I have been trying not to buy any new fabrics because my stash is just overflowing and I have far too much fabric at this point, so I really need to use it up. So my goals that I set for myself was everything that I used I either had to get from the thrift store or it had to be from my stash of fabric itself. So I'm gonna let past Minji take over from here because I don't remember exactly the plan and I don't have the fabrics to show you guys anymore since I used them for this costume. However, before we switch over to plan and fabrics and stuff, I wanted to introduce the sponsor for today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community where you can learn new skills and grow your creativity with classes led by industry professionals in things like film, illustration, design, productivity, and so many more topics. If you're not sure where to start, Skillshare has designed learning paths which can help you build on your current skills or just start new skills entirely. Each learning path is a set of classes meant to be taken in order to reinforce skills like design, productivity, creative freelancing, marketing, and tools like Procreate and Blender. Learning paths range from beginner to advanced, so no matter where you are in your creative journey, there's something for everyone. So as you may be able to tell from how late this video is, I've been struggling a little bit with procrastination and feeling creative and just having a hard time following through on projects. So I found the Beat Procrastination learning path on Skillshare to be really helpful. The classes go through actionable steps to get inspiration and creativity flowing again, to workflow and planning tips to get you through the first inspiration stage, to actually finishing your projects efficiently. The first 500 people to use my link will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so no matter where you are in your creative journey, it's definitely worth checking out. So with that, I'm gonna go back to the Minji of 5 months ago who had a better idea of what the plan for this project was, because at this point I have forgotten, and then she can also show you what fabrics we're working with. So let's go there. I went to the thrift store and found some curtains, and really the only curtains that I could find were gold. The first one that's gonna make up like the large bulk of the costume is this cream and gold patterned like large stripe costume, and I'm thinking that will look really good for this skirt, so it'll kind of be gathered like this. Second one that I found has some smaller stripes, and I was thinking that would be cool for like a paned sleeve. I do have a rendering that I've made, but I'm not sure entirely how closely I'm gonna stick to that render, but it kind of is giving me a good starting point. The stash fabric that I'm gonna be using are these two right here. It's a gold satin and this red velvet from Silk Baron. This is left over from a project about a year ago when I made my friend's wedding dress and her partner's wedding jacket. This was the fabric that we used for the lapels on the jacket, so I overbought because I was really on a time crunch and concerned about having enough, so I have quite a bit of this. I was thinking probably I'll use this like long section here for the very center middle of the skirt, and then use the rest of it for various parts like the bodice and doing some piping on the paned sleeves. We're gonna see how much of this I actually have and how much I'm able to work around with that. For the pattern, I'm going to be kind of mixing a couple things. For the main bodice, I'm gonna be using pattern by This Is Kachi on Etsy. I'll link that in the description below. And then I was thinking for the sleeves, if you've been around on my channel for a while, you know that I started a project and have still not finished it. It's getting worked on. I'm in the process of making Frau by Sakizo, which is kind of a Tudor inspired gown, and I thought that the sleeve pattern from that would be really cool to put on this dress. So I'm going to be taking the outer puff sleeve and the inner support sleeve and turning that into the sleeves for this costume and kind of piecing that onto the bodice. For the skirt, I think I'm just going to do a big rectangle skirt, cut it with a little bit of a train, and maybe bustle it up for the RenFaire because I don't really want my skirts dragging all over the RenFaire. So I've already done a fitting for the sleeves. I have a whole mock-up fitting video for Frau, and that's about as far as I got for Frau. For the bodice, I've never used This Is Kachi's pattern before, so let's go to that bodice fitting. Okay, fitting. This is entirely too large for me. I cut a medium, but this is way too large. It's completely closed in the back, and I would prefer this to fit more like stays. I suppose that maybe it is looser because it's a dress and not stays, but I want this to fit tighter. So we're gonna take this in quite a bit. I did lower the neckline by about 2 inches, I think, because I wanted it to be more like the Borgias. I've been really inspired by that show, so that's kind of what I was going for this costume. If it was up here, I feel like this would not be the Italian Renaissance kind of vibe that I'm going for. So I think this just needs to come in all the way around. It's like basically where I'm squeezing it is from the 2 back darts they're meeting, so that's not correct. Here's my pattern piece. If the 2 darts in the back are meeting, that means it is too large by 2.5 inches on each side, so it's too large by around 5 inches. So I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 seams, so I could just take 1 inch off of each seam. I think I probably will do that so that it's balanced all the way around, but let me double check. Because I'm not sure if it only needs to come out from the bottom part here or if it's all the way up through the bust. And I do want it to meet in the back because it is going to be a dress. It's not like stays where I want the flexibility in there. Like, it would be good to have some flexibility, I suppose, but I do want it to meet. The original pattern has it set up for a zipper and not lacing, but I like the look of lacing, so I'm gonna do lacing. So I've got everything pinned. I do think that taking this part in made the opening a little bit too narrow. I don't really love that. I have taken 1 inch, so like 1/2 inch off of each side, but 1 inch total off of each of these 4 seams, the 2 front seams and the 2 side seams. I didn't take any off of the back, but it is fitting a lot better now, and I think that this would be fine. It is pulling across here because it's pinned rather than stitched, but I think that stuff will go away once it is actually stitched. I'm thinking maybe instead of taking it out of the front here, I'll do 1/2 of it at the front and 1/2 of it out of this back seam here. I did also lower the back seam by 4 inches already. I think I want to lower it some more. I don't really love how high it is, so I think I do want it to come to about where like the peak of my shoulder blades is. But as far as fit, generally, I think that where the seams lie is pretty good. So like these front bust seams are pretty much like where they should be in terms of like princess line, like where the apex of my bust is. The side seams are maybe a little bit far forward. They could be maybe a little farther back, but it doesn't bother me too much. And the darts are in a pretty good place. So all of that is good. I think that I just need to adapt it for more what I want. And then I will be sticking my Frau sleeves on here, but I have already fit those, so I'm not gonna bother with this. I think I prefer it to come down to here. And then this is also a little bit wide, so I think I want it to come farther out like that. Yeah, I like the line that it's making, like this kind of nice curve under here. I think that looks really cute. And I think that if I were to just cut it right under here, like while it would look more like some of my inspiration, it would also like just come right under my bust and then bubble out and not be terribly flattering, but I like how this is. I haven't decided if I'm gonna make a different chemise that has a ruffle at the top rather than like this elastic, because it's not like the cutest thing poking out right there, but this is probably the shift that I will be using. And if I have time, I'll make another one. If not, then this is what I'll be wearing. Yay, awesome. So I think as long as I can just take this in a little bit, then I'll get more of the support that I want for the bust, and I'll also get like a tighter fit so that it's not quite so loose, and I'll feel a little more secure. That's all the changes I'm gonna make. Let's go cut out the fabric. Baby Bat, you wanna say hi? Baby Bat wanted to say hello. You be nice? No! Okay, here you go. figure out whether I want to use the small stripe or the large stripe on these curtains. So I put piping on either side just so I can see kind of what it'll look like. So this is the wide stripe and this is the narrow stripe. Originally I was going to do the narrow stripe, but now I'm not sure that I have enough for the piping, so I'm wondering if I should just do the wider stripe, because that would mean I would need less piping. This is what the base of the sleeve is going to be, is this like lighter gold fabric. I'm trying to decide whether it would look better to have this stripe on top, it's a little bit darker, or if it would look better to have this one on top, which is a little bit closer to the darker color on this cream sleeve is. So because this is going to be kind of like a fake skirt, it's going to be attached to the bodice. It's going to look like it's two parts, but it's really just going to be one part. Because I don't have much of this red velvet here, I didn't make an entire skirt out of it to make it look like there's a velvet underskirt and that this cream brocade is an overskirt. I'm not going to be stitching them exactly together because that'll make like a really hard line at the front. Instead, I figured out that the front section that I want this red velvet section skirt panel to match up to is about 5 inches. So I want that to be gathered like double. So I need 10 inches of this showing. This is 15 inches wide total. So I'm gonna have each side covered up by 2.5 inches, so that leaves 10 inches. This will get stitched at the top just like this. It'll get stitched right down. But for the rest of the length, I'm not going to stitch this down at the very front of this. I'm going to just tack it at the back where this fabric ends so that it can be a little bit more free floating, but so it never actually like fully comes apart. Because I am doing all of that, this will not be able to open up in the front. So I do need to make an opening in the back here. I'm just gonna cut right down the center back and make a placket. I think somebody asked me to explain plackets a little bit in a previous video's comments, so I'm going to try to do that. But first, there's no opening here, so I need to cut an opening. I think a 10-inch opening should be plenty, so with the 1-inch seam allowance at the top, I'm just going to cut it 11 inches. going to use the leftover curtain fabric to make the actual placket part that goes around the cut opening. We need a strip of fabric that is the entire length of the opening, so like 11 inches down and then 11 inches back up. I think I just want like a 3/4 inch placket. I need to multiply 3/4 by 4 because it'll have 4 layers that surround the placket. So 3/4 times 4 is 3 inches. So I need a strip that's 3 inches by 22. I only want the placket to have like a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the very top, so it needs to be 3/4 times 2 because that will get doubled over for the width, but then I only need to add a 1/2 inch for seam allowance on either side, so it needs to be 2.5 inches instead. So I've got my placket piece cut. I want to mark a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this so that I know where to place that line against the seam allowance on the skirt piece. Then on the wrong side of the skirt, I'm going to mark a line that's 1/2 inch out here that tapers down to nothing, basically, where the cut ends. Before I stitch anything, I'm just going to stay stitch along this cut edge so the fibers don't pull out. This is pinned along this 1/2 inch line all on the placket side, but on the skirt side, it's pinned so that it starts at a 1/2 inch and then tapers down to nothing at this point, and then tapers back out to the 1/2 inch. That's because at this joint, if I were to just go straight out here, it would have like a little bubble because it would just be not where it opens nicely, I guess. Tapering it down to this point makes it a lot smoother and makes it so it turns really easily. That's stitched on. I've pressed all of the seam allowance towards the placket side of the seam. Then I also went ahead and pressed the rest of it so that this gets folded under and then this just gets folded on top of that. So then you have a really nice finished seam. I'm just going to top stitch over this and then it will be done. That's all stitched and pressed on both sides. So basically the placket is done, except we need to fix that this kind of just like sticks out like this. Obviously we don't want it just sticking out when it's being worn as a skirt, so this needs to be made to lay flat. It goes inside actually rather than outside. And typically the right side goes over top of the left side. This isn't going to get a hook and eye, it's going to be stitched directly into the bodice, but I do want to still make it so that this lays flat, and then also so that I can put snaps along this so it doesn't gape open as it's being worn. The bodice is going to lace up, but the skirt is not going to lace up because I don't want it to. I'm going to press this so this faces towards the inside. This can lay how it is already, and then I'm just going to stitch a little diagonal across here so that it wants to stay towards the inside instead of flipping out. It just needs to be pressed under. Since it's going to get snaps on it, the snaps will hold this fold in place, so we don't need to really tack this down in any way. There's that little tack there, and that's it. That's the placket. I'm gonna wait to put the snaps on until I get this into the bodice, just so I can make sure everything is laying flat. But that's pretty much how you do a placket. Move on to finishing the rest of the skirt. I think that I want to add some trim to the very front here because this is the edge of a curtain. It's looking a little plain. It's not terribly period appropriate, meaning fantasy Italian Renaissance, but I think I'm going to use this scalloped floral trim. And I'm just going to stitch that right on through the front because I might end up switching it out eventually when I do get a better lace for this, but I think that this is what I'm going to go with right now. So I stitch that on, and then I'm going to move on to finishing the skirt and gathering the top up there so it can be put into the bodice. main part of the dress is done, time to work on the sleeves. So because I did all the piping on the straight up grain rather than on the bias, I want to make sure that the nap is going in the same direction on all of my piping and that it's going in the correct direction, which is rough side is going down. So it should feel smooth as you like go up, rough when you go down. A bit late last night finishing the dress, but it is all done basically. It has some embellishments to do and I need to make the laces for lacing this up. It has lacing on the sleeves and lacing on the center back. The front is kind of plain, so I want to also add some embellishment just to the center front here. Kit has some like 3D filigree detailing on hers. I have this mold from Evil Ted. I was thinking I'll brush it with this gold powder that I have and then fill the mold with hot glue. I would do resin normally, but the only resin that I have cures for 72 hours and I really don't have that time, so hot glue it is. I'm gonna let that cool. Hopefully that works out. If it does, then I'll make another set maybe. I don't know how much I'm gonna need. The last thing I want to do is make some wings. I want to make some wings out of the same fabric as the skirt. Hopefully I have enough of this. I'm not looking to make like really huge wings. I just want to make some little cutesy, small, tiny wings so that it conveys a little bit better that I am a dragon, because I have horns, but I don't know that those are gonna do it alone. Yay, almost done. Good, because today is the day I'm supposed to wear it. Made a couple little sketches on the side there. I think I'm gonna have to go with this because my fabric is longer than it is wide, but we'll see. the limitations of time that I have, just finishing it in a few days, and then also the limitations on fabric, I think it turned out really, really well. While having the front panel of the red velvet not be actually like hard attached to the rest of the skirt was a little bit less structurally sound than actually having it attached. I do think that I liked the look of it better. So I've seen a lot of like medieval or like Tudor style dresses that have like a 4-part style skirt just be like attached so that the 4-part is really just like a panel of different colored fabric sewn directly into the skirt. I don't personally love how that looks because it does just look like it's one big skirt all sewn together. I think that it looks okay from far away, but like I don't like looking at it really close up. So I thought giving it that little bit of separation would help with the illusion that it was actually 2 layers of skirts. And like while it looked really good and I'm happy that I did that, I did not tack it down securely enough. So the stitches at the very bottom of the skirt did end up popping at some point during the day, and the cross stitch kind of ended up unraveling, so I'm gonna have to fix that. But I think it's just a matter of like I need to do a little bit more secure stitches and like maybe use like a double to triple quadruple layer of thread rather than I don't know how much I use but I think I just need to use stronger thread or like more thread so that everything is a little bit more secure and it doesn't get ripped when it gets stepped on at the RenFaire, because that tends to happen. I didn't end up having a problem with the train dragging on the ground that much. It had the normal amount of dirt wear on it, like if I was wearing a normal skirt, but because I actually was really limited by how much curtain fabric I had, I didn't end up making a huge train, so it turned out fine. I think the fit turned out really well. It was a little bit tight in the bust, but like that's just generally the style. But because it was an empire waist and not like a full like through the torso bodice, it wasn't uncomfortable. I was still able to like breathe just fine by like breathing through my stomach, I guess, and I was able to eat just fine, so that compression was not a problem at all. And I think it achieved the look that I was going for, so that was great. The wings that I ended up making at the end I think are so cute, and like while they were kind of lopsided for most of the day, I'm not sure if they were just kind of balanced wrong or if I tend to favor one side over the other. I think that's something I can figure out and maybe tie it to the laces or something, do something so that those don't get lopsided throughout the day. This is probably not a costume that I'd wear at the beginning of the season when we're still in like August, early September, but end of the season costume, it was perfect. I didn't feel overheated even though the sleeve fabric was all very like polyester-y. All the curtains that I got were all very polyester, so even though that was the case, it didn't bother me too much, especially because a lot of it was standing away from my body. So like the skirt started like pretty much right under my bust, so that gave a lot of airflow, I guess. I'm really happy with how all of the colors turned out and like meshed together. I was a little bit worried because I was kind of just going with the things that I had. Originally I thought maybe I'd do green when I was looking at the fabric in the store, but I had red, so I decided to use that. I think it matched everyone really well. The only person's costume who I had seen before actually being at the RenFaire that weekend was Kit's, and she had said she might not even wear that one. She might make a different one. She did end up not making a new one and wearing that one, but I was a little concerned that maybe I wasn't gonna match super well, but everybody matched. It was really cute and I was very happy, and it also matched super well with the horns that I got, so everything worked out. Yeah, for being limited kind of to what I had on hand or what I could find, I am very, very happy with it. I think if I was not limited, the only changes that I would make is to make it a full skirt underneath. So like whether that was with a different lining fabric or a cotton or something, which I guess I probably do have something that I could just make a separate skirt with. But if I'd had more time and more fabric that was easy to find, I would have probably made that velvet underskirt a full skirt. Not necessarily with entirely velvet, it probably still would have been just that panel in the front, and then the rest of it would have been some like cheaper fabric that's lighter, but I think that would really be the only change that I would make. I guess also if I had more time, I would have made a different chemise to go with it, because I ended up using the chemise that I made a few years ago from like my Renaissance fairy costume, I think in like 2021, 22. So I think that if I had had more time, I would have made a different shift that had like more of a ruffle detail or something that wasn't just elastic at the very top edge, because it's not my favorite look. I like the chemise a lot. I think it's very pretty, and I like the fabric that it's made out of. It's made out of silk chiffon, I think from Silk Baron, and I really like how it looks like with the sleeves and everything and the puffs. However, I think that for this costume where the neckline is so much of the focus, I think I would have done something that had maybe like a little bit more detail at the neckline to be more showcased. But I think really those are my only two things that I would have changed had I had more time and more fabric to play with. Other than that, I think pretty much everything turned out how I would have done it if I was not so pressed for time or resources. So that's great. That's always good when I don't feel like shorted by time or materials, even if I am a little bit. That's it. So here's to procrastinating a little bit less in the new year, maybe. So with that, I wanted to thank Skillshare again for sponsoring this video. I have so many things that I always want to learn all the time. There's another learning path that I was looking at that's Procreate, and while I use Procreate for a lot of my renderings and for my thumbnails and stuff, I feel like I am just barely scratching the surface of what Procreate can do, and I really want to be able to utilize it to its full potential, so that might be another learning path that I go on soon. So if you want to learn with me, the first 500 people to use the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. But yeah, there's so many things I want to learn and so many things I want to do, and there's never enough time for all of them. So less procrastinating, more getting stuff done. And yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, any suggestions, if there's anything else you want to see from me in the future, I do fewer sewing videos than I used to, but I do not want to not do them entirely. So I am currently working on some stuff for Katsucon, so those videos will come eventually. And I don't know, if you have anything else you want to see from me, let me know and leave that in the comments. And if you want to see more of my videos, then please hit the subscribe button. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!